Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Lights Out Automation for IBM I Data Centers from HelpSystems. How to keep your business running smoothly even during the unexpected. And this is certainly an important topic in these difficult times, but maybe even more so, something that we should all be working toward before a crisis. My name is Chuck Lasinski, and I am the Director of Technical Solutions here at HelpSystems, and I spend much of my time with our clients talking about how they can make their IBM I environments even more productive and secure. Tom, how about you?
Well, I'm our Executive Vice President of Technical Solutions, and I help customers understand how they can automate their systems. I've been doing that for my 30+ year career here at HelpSystems. Hard to
Wow.
believe. I'm also a IBM Power Champion, and I've been that for 5 years, and it's been fun being part of that. And I always tell people, if you're looking for something from IBM, let me know, and I'll help you out and point you to the right person, for one. And two, it's all about us these days when it comes to marketing of the IBM I platform. Share your stories, be social, LinkedIn, tweet, and all those other good things that you can do to promote the platform.
Yeah,
All
we'd love
right.
to get connected up with you. So, Tom, it really amazes me some of the creative and pragmatic solutions that our customers have come up with on their journey to lights out and building a better IT. What does that mean to you?
Well, it's exactly it. This is something that many, many years ago, our CEO who founded HelpSystems, Richard Jacobson, or Dick, coined this automation as a journey, which is, if you think about it, it's exactly where we're at today in the world of IT transformation. It's a digital era, yet many of us are still struggling with automation. So today's presentation is about building a better IT by applying some basic concepts from an automation standpoint. We want the market to know that we're ready and we can help you out with this technology on your journey and transformations that many of us are making.
All right, Tom, let's take a look at our first polling question. We do
Polling
want our
question.
audience to participate.
Absolutely. So I'm opening up our first polling question, which requires you to click on one of these potential answers to the poll. And during these unprecedented times, where are you
Where are you?
struggling with most? And you can select multiple items here: remote access to your IT functions, like managing backup tapes, getting end user reports distributed. Maybe you have in the past still printing on printers, right? Coordinating batch activity across all your servers. You have security concerns with remote access, and or maybe you don't have automated monitoring going on. So another key concept today that we'll talk about, having the computer tell you there's a problem versus you having to go out and seek. So we'll leave this polling question open for a few moments here. Lights out is a topic that we've been talking about for many years. Some people refer to it as a light dim, Chuck. Some just call it unattended operations. Hopefully you can apply these terms today and however you want. So anything else to add there, Chuck, or should I close our first poll?
Well, we've been asking this particular polling question just over the past couple of weeks and getting some really good input from our participants, because obviously things are a little different right at the moment, but ultimately applying these techniques long term just makes you more resilient.
Okay, doesn't look like everybody replied to it, but we have kind of a nice split of people that are concerned about remote access, unattended reports and getting reports out, and then security, of course, is a big concern. And certainly that is the case that we see with many people. So let's move on to our next topic, which is the agenda. Why aren't you lights out already? That's a bold question. And then we'll go through the successful formula for lights out, and then some key technologies along the way that you need to think about as you go lights out. So why aren't you lights out already? That's really kind of the first item on the agenda today. And when I think of that over the years and what I've heard, right out of the gate, we're too big. And I remember a customer once telling me, we're the biggest IT IBM shop on the Northeast, for example, and we can't automate. Guess what? Today they run one of the biggest environments still on IBM, and it's totally running unattended. It is a very impressive success story. Roadblocks along the way. What are some of the roadblocks that we run into? And we'll talk about some of those today, but there's technology roadblocks. To me, one of the biggest roadblocks, Chuck, is just mental roadblock. It's like we're used to doing it this way. We're always going to do it that way. And that mental roadblock, getting over and making automation part of your everyday. No budget. Obviously, financial times are tough in a lot of industries right now, but there are some industries that are flourishing because of the situation that we're in. What's your comfort level? You know, sometimes we're more comfortable having somebody there looking at it, but in today's world, again, can we have a whole data center of staff members working, whether you call them operators, operator analysts, you know, systems admin, whatever? We can't have that anymore. So how do we achieve lights out when we can't have people there? You lack the tools. Certainly there is a lack of tools in a lot of cases where we have what we wrote manually. I mean, think to me, one of the number one competitors we see from an automation standpoint is still the systems admin person who wrote the utility that does the backup, does the scheduling, does the security. And those utilities are great and fine, and a lot of great people have done that, but they're not up to state of the art. They don't handle everything that you need. That person's maybe going to be retiring. That causes problems. Automation has never been a priority. Well, I bet you it is today, right? Like those reports. How do we get those reports out that we're now still printing on printers? And of course, IBM is not an island. There are other servers that you need to worry about. And how do you integrate that into your automation story? It's no longer just an IBM issue. It's Windows, it's Linux, it's Unix alongside IBM. And of course, one of the biggest things is just that whole mental thing again, the fear of missing something and the fact that we never can trust the software to actually run the system or the system to run itself. There's that fear, and we have to have somebody there. I mean, I know people that have automation software and have gone back to checklists because somebody missed something along the way. Reality will explain that is there probably was a rule that was missing. It wasn't that the software missed something.
Yeah, Tom,
All
on
right.
that last bullet, we've had
Yeah.
people talk about checking the checker, check the check that checks the checker, you know, and they put in multiple checks because once they missed one thing and now they've put in three checks to, you know, check that one item, but really it might have just been something that was ultimately missed in the initial automation.
Right, exactly. So when we look at automation, I think of if you're going to be automating things, there has to be some new things in your vocabulary if you haven't been talking about those. And one of those is lights out. I mean, lights out is really an old term in the data center or in the industry for the fact that we're trying to run all of our IT functions and our business processes in an unattended mode. More recently, in the last 2, 3, 4 years, we've been hearing about a new market, a new thing called robotic process automation, or RPA. And you hear that a lot from the network side of the business, and you hear that from Gartner and Forrester. It's really nothing new to Chuck and I. It's automation. It's about taking repetitive processes and figuring out how can I run them automatically so I don't have to have a human doing it. And that process might come from an end user. It might be a infrastructure process, whatever you're trying to automate and be able to take care of it. And then we have the concept of lights dim. Lights dim mean, most everything's automated, but I still might have an operator on site doing things. Well, in today's world, we might not even be able to have an operator. You might be mandated that everybody has to be home. Also, council consolidation, that's kind of a funny old term in a way, Chuck. It just simply really means is that I have all these independent systems, or in today's world, VMs, with all separate councils running. And mind you, there are people that still have a council up for every QSys hopper on every green screen virtual partition they have. And there are better ways to do that. It's called council consolidation. Really what it means is management from one single point. And then, everybody always said exceptions. One of our late great colleagues, unfortunately, that we lost this year, Jerry Stenzel, who been a longtime person in our support organization at HelpSystems. Eventually, Tom's going to say management by exception when it comes to automation, and that is so true. Management by exception. You can, in today's world, get rid of the noise. The normal things are noise. It's the exceptions that matter. And those exceptions really drive our service level agreements. So it's all about how fast can I get there and take care of that SLA. It's really, really important to be able to deliver on that. Of course, unattended is another vocabulary word we see, or operator list, and then checklists. Automate those checklists, automate those run books. That's what you're after, is getting rid of checklists so that people don't have to remember to do things. And I know, Chuck, you and I have both at one point in time in our career have had the honor of going out to a customer site and helping them automate and work with the operators and look at their checklist. I'm here to tell you, not everything that they do every night is written down in a checklist. I mean, there are surprises when we come in to automate that they're doing things that just they remember how to do and they don't have it written down anywhere. Then actually rules. I mean, rules drive automation. The more rules you have, the more automation you have. All right, spent a lot of time on that. But as we look at automation, there's some other things you should have, and I call them benchmark words, because really, to me, it means if you have these words in your vocabulary, when you're looking at computer operations, IT automation, DevOps, whatever you want to call it today, that means you're thinking in the right way. You have a vision. What's my vision? What's this system going to look like in 3 months, 6 months, a month later, a week later? What's that vision of how I want my system to run? And you really are a change agent. If you have other people on your staff and they say, we've always done it that way. I have been working with a customer here very recently, and their operators retired that were running robot schedule, and they would always just say, well, we've always done it that way, right? We've always done it that way. Well, you're coming in, you're a change agent. You are a person that's going to be making change. And along the way, there might be a few casualties, but you have to do that. You have to have a passion for this. You have to be looking at productivity. You want to be thinking about how can we make our team members more productive. And with that, you should be thinking about what kind of metrics can I build in, like how many jobs can I automate? How many systems can I monitor from one spot? You become that taskmaster, Chuck. You become that person that has a list of things that you're going to do, and you always are working from that to-do list and checking things off. You have to be persistent or have stick-to-itiveness in place. And you're going to advance your systems, and you're going to help your people deploy things faster and build a very consistent yet highly available environment when you apply principles of automation. Quite a list there, Chuck. I don't want to
It
overwhelm
is.
people. What are some of the benefits of why would somebody want to do lights out?
Yeah, why lights out? Well, I think it's all about enabling computers to do what they're good at, and that's automation. So this really allows us to be ready for the unexpected, whether it's a good thing like a mad rush of orders, all right, to be prepared for a bubble, so to speak, or something like what we've currently got going on with COVID. And I'm sure that there's a lot more reasons, but let's talk about these as they're somewhat, fundamental. So Tom, let's go to the next slide, please.
Okay. All right, reducing errors, right?
There
This
we
is
go.
yours, Chuck.
Yeah.
How are we going to
Yeah, it
reduce
is. It
errors?
is. Increase productivity. So ultimately, we're talking about doing more with less.
Mm-hmm.
So think of automation as being able to add work into your system and being able to put the rules in place to do that. And a single individual could do that, for instance, or a couple individuals. And as your business grows, as more orders come in, as more diverse entities come into your organization, as you maybe acquire other companies, and now you bring their workload in, you're able to take on that additional work because you've got automation rules in place. So you're able to scale quite easily. And the automation rules also allow systems to be more fully automated on a 24/7 basis. That third shift operator that particular staffing position has always been difficult to fill. It's a difficult role. You're kind of on an island when you're that third shift operator. So by being able to eliminate, and in fact, when we've done implementations, that's typically the first thing we've done is taking care of the off shift automation requirements. A lot goes on after 5 o'clock at night on our systems that we're all aware of.
Yeah, and if we think about RPA today, now we're extending that out to the end user. You know, you might have somebody in HR, you might have somebody in accounts payable. They're doing the same thing manually over and over and over every day. Those are opportunities for further automation.
Yeah, and then what we can do then is once we've got those manual processes taken care of, now those people are available for doing other roles.
Mhm.
All right, so what does automation do for us? It helps reduce errors, and we hear this all the time, even today, especially when it comes to people running their operations through a run book or a checklist. Something got run out of order, something didn't get run. The second shift guy, you know, he took some PTO. Now the manager had to fill in, or somebody else from first shift had to fill in, and they're not used to running those run books, and something happened. All right, something was missed, something was run out of order, something didn't complete on time, and so forth. Lost reports. If you've got some kind of automation tool in place for harvesting spool file information or beyond that, other reports from other systems that are generated automatically, you know, that's really critical. Just entering in incorrect parameters, Tom,
Yeah,
so easy to happen. You know, very
the wrong
easy,
value.
because you know we might get distracted. I see people distracted with their mobile devices all the time. It's pretty easy. So lots of ways to reduce errors when automation is put into place, whether it's through scheduling, workload automation, RPA, and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we're going to improve your SLAs. And again, if you think about today, apply it to today's situation and people who are working from home that maybe were responsible for running something, whether it was an end user or somebody in IT, maybe they're not able to do that the way they used to. And now you need to get it into a scheduling tool to have it be automated.
Yeah, yeah. And
Well, how
Tom,
about passing audits?
yeah, let's talk about that. You mentioned that early on. You know, the auditor likes data, and they make a lot of requests of us. So the idea is your rules are in place. You should be able to print out those rules to prove to the auditor that processes are automated, that processes are being audited, that things like job completion, job runtime, message interception, log interception, that all those things are being captured in the history file in the automation tool. Tom, you mentioned backup automation early on.
Hmm.
Again, that's something that data, rather than capturing that information manually in a log or in a spreadsheet, now trying to make it presentable to the auditor. If that data is already in an automation tool, it's pretty easy to kick out the history data and even query the tables potentially
Hmm.
that are in those products or in those solutions. And then those queries, those reports can be automated in a scheduling solution or an automation solution, and ultimately providing the data, maybe even emailing it directly to your auditor automatically, and maybe on a monthly basis.
You think about it today, right? What's changed? Maybe your auditor's no longer going to come on site, but they're going to want to do everything remotely. So can they look at that book of printouts that is in your office to show that you're managing the system? I don't think so, right? So it's got to be
Right.
database driven.
Yep.
So we also got to look at, operational costs, right? In today's world, there's a lot of I mean, I sit on the HelpSystems executive team here, and we've had a lot of hard discussions on where can we cut costs because, we expect downturns in our business as well as you're expecting that. And so, deploying human resources in other areas and helping to concentrate on different things, service more departments. To me, one of the biggest operational cost headaches, and I see it all the time when I do go on site with customers, and now I have remote meetings, of course, eliminate that firefighting crisis. The companies that have the standing Monday meeting just to handle issues that happened over the weekend is crazy to me. Let's tackle those things. Let's fix the problem with automation. You know, eliminate staff that cannot help. Well, along the way, you might eliminate some staff. More often, it's deploying staff other places. And of course, we also talk about avoiding being outsourced is one of the things that if you can automate, it's hard for the outsourcer to come in and find value in ways that they can save you money if you're a highly automated, I'll call it understaffed company because of that. You're going to be better utilizing your hardware and your software. And again, one of the things to think about today is what more can I get out of my solutions? So the other thing that automation is going to help you out with is deploying new technologies more rapidly. Once you have procedures in place, you become very good at bringing up new applications and always asking that question, who's going to run this? How's it going to be integrated into my existing system? It's a lot easier to do that if you have systems that accept database-driven rules versus a manual process where I got to go in and update a spreadsheet or a Word document to explain how to run the system. And then, of course, that DevOps concept comes into play with being able to integrate development with operations. We've been preaching that for years. Again, it's no new term. It's just a new term for other platforms. But in the IBM world, we've always been preaching involve developers in your operations department so that things are automated, right? Change control and all those other things happen automatically. And then, of course, service level agreements. We deal with a lot of companies that have SLAs and they have just-in-time manufacturing in the auto industry. They have to meet certain SLAs in system uptime and delivering parts. And is this automated for you today? Do you have automation from a standpoint of measurements of what's running through the system, backups completing on time, critical jobs completing on time, gathering of time-sensitive data and distributing this information automatically, because it is a reality today that we're faced with. So kind of a recap, why lights out. We want to increase your productivity, reduce the number of errors from running things manually, pass audits more easily, reduce operational costs, deploy new technologies, and meet those service level agreements, and almost be there in the nirvana of running computer technology, Chuck. We want to be able to relax and make those crises go away and managing computer systems. So what are some of the successes, Chuck, and the formula for lights out?
Yeah, let's talk about how to get there, the success formula for lights out. So we're going to walk you through the success formula. And the first one is Tom's favorite buzzword, so to speak, management, management by exception. And here's the problem. And Tom, you're well aware of this, there, especially on IBM I, but other platforms too. There's so many messages, so many log entries, so many audit entries that the admin and operations staff tend to get bombarded with all this information, and then they just ignore everything. Right. So
Right.
you need to harvest out the important stuff. And so putting in rules-based filtering is really, that's where you butter your bread, so to speak. More rules, more automation, and in the long run, those rules actually provide more flexibility and adaptability when things get busy. Of course, human intervention is needed. The single pane of glass for multiple partitions, platforms, systems, and so forth. Make the rules, put the rules in place so that on that single pane of glass, it's where you would go to see exactly what's happening, not everything that's happening, the important stuff. So basically, Tom, the mantra, find the needle in the haystack. So put the automation rules in place to find that needle.
Absolutely. It's important management. Without management by exception, it's really hard to keep abreast of all that. And then as we switch back and forth here on this, really one of the things that we've always preached, and especially with IBM I, because there's so much going on every one of these IBM I environments. To me, it's always, I get a chuckle when customers come and say, hey, we'd like to use your SIM agent to send all the security entries over to Splunk or QRadar or whatever. They don't realize what they just asked for, because there's some of these large IBM I environments. I mean, they're mainframe environments, right? And so what we want to be able to do is create rules that run and automate at the source, and then build that management exception into it, and then be able to escalate those exceptions over to that central console. And then also so that the rules can run independently of if the central console is not working, we want our things to be able to, the rules that we have in place to be able to run independent of the central console. And, in my mind, and I'm a dad of a couple of college students, and I'm feeling that as they've come back home for the rest of the school year, independence is a good thing. I keep telling myself and reminding myself every day with my own children. So, Chuck, over to
All right.
you.
Well, Tom, where do you start? So this is
Yeah,
a topic where I've helped a lot of companies in this area. So you start with
certainly.
a pilot project. Look at the run book, look at the documented procedures, typically some daily operation, and find something that's going to be successful. And in that process, you're also learning the automation tool. So start with something simple and something
Mhm.
that's it has some level of assured success. And then also check that run book for low-hanging fruit, something that's going to have quick payback. Management's going to want to see that. And also start from the daily tasks. So get the daily tasks automated, then move on to weekly and monthly and so forth. So really, I think the overarching messages that this whole webinar is around automation is a journey, not a destination. Have I heard that somewhere before?
I think you have. Yeah, we've been preaching that one for a while. So absolutely. Get rid of those mundane tasks. That's something that is absolutely perfect for automation. So one of the things I've always said is more rules, more automation. Granularity is a good thing. You have a scheduling tool, a enterprise scheduling tool, a whatever. The more jobs you have in it, the more tasks you have in it to run, the more granular they are. It's a good thing. Don't take that big CL that you've been running every night to run your night processing and plop that into your scheduler. You just lost all your flexibility. I can't rerun things. I can't report on individual processes within there to get metrics around it. And then also it's easier to report on service level agreements. I can break it down. I also tell people that in every night processing, there's probably 10, 20 jobs that are the make and break. Right? Those are the critical ones, or processes that you depend on. Maybe you're looking for automation to monitor some processes. There's probably only a few processes that can make and break your day that you really have to be concerned about. So for me, the mantra is all pools need rules, and all automation projects, that's what you're doing. You're building rules so that you can be successful.
All right, so let's talk more about building exception-based notification. The idea here is don't blast everyone with the messages because things get ignored. So build an escalation list that's specific to maybe a group of jobs, a specific workload, a specific hardware-based message versus a software-based message, and so forth. So based on processing type, let's say. Put those SLA monitors in place for notifying those who are responsible to make sure that that critical path that Tom was just talking about, that critical path gets paid attention to. So that's really critical. I mean, you got thousands of jobs potentially that you're automating, but there's that one critical path. And potentially, even if you're using event-based scheduling, maybe that event got delayed. Maybe that file didn't arrive on time. All right, so things aren't happening when they should. And then you may have some kind of an enterprise monitoring, single pane of glass type focus. So your notification method must fit the enterprise. So is that an SNMP trap? Is that an email? Are there particular Outlook broadcast lists or something that you want to focus on? That's the kind of thing that you need to think about when you're putting in exception-based notification. So the mantra, eliminate the boy who cried wolf, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
Right. So SLAs, we talked quite a bit about them. What are your SLAs? You need to know what they are. You need to eliminate those manual checks that you're doing to keep up on your SLAs. That's all stuff that can be automated. Not all events are equal. As I said earlier, you got things that are important, things that are not so important. Eliminate the noise along the way as you're managing your SLAs. And for me, don't give up. If you don't succeed at first, try again. Right? I mean, you need to think about the end game here, the journey, and and that you're looking to automate. And sometimes you're going to have some things that you put rules in place and they don't work exactly the way you expect it. Don't give up. Don't point at the tool. Realize you made a mistake and move on. It's going to be better in the end. You just got to continue to commit to that. All right, Chuck, over to you. What about job descriptions? It's important
Tom, I
here.
know this is one of your favorite topics. You've been talking about this since we first met, and
Yeah.
it really is incredible. It really is critical. So, like the mantra says, somebody has to wear the automation badge or the captain's hat, right? So
Mm-hmm.
literally, the job description of the DevOps guy or the system administrator should include automation. And when you think about it, all of us who are in IT, my gosh, we work with computer systems. Computer systems were designed to automate things. We're all really responsible for that. Everything we do, we need to think about, we're going to put something new in place. How do we automate that? So like Tom said earlier when we were talking about buzzwords and vocabulary words, really getting serious about that and keeping that in the front of our brains and always thinking about that. Gartner predicts we're going to see a lot more automation. We know that in the RPA space that we participate in now with our Automate tool. This is a big topic and it's
Mm-hmm.
growing leaps and bounds over the year, year to year.
Very good. So, part of it is who's going to do the work, right? Who's going to do the automation? The tools themselves should adhere to your staff that you have today that maybe are doing things manually. So, my opinion on this is operators can automate the system. They should be able to, right? If they can't, that probably means the tool you're using to do the automation is too difficult. You got to program and things like that. So, empower your operators, empower your analysts, your administrators, make sure that they have the right resources that can do this automation. And one of the things, if you do still have operators at night, you trust them at night. Why wouldn't you trust them to help you automate? They're sitting in your data center by themselves or with just a couple other buddies, and you trust them to run these $1 million systems, and yet you're not going to trust them to help you automate. They're in the trenches. They're doing the work day in and day of running things manually. Why wouldn't you get them involved in the automation project? Let's improve their careers versus just calling them the operator. And honestly, we don't see, Chuck, as many people with the title of just operator today as we used to.
No.
And I remember colleague of ours, customer of ours, long time, Don, he started a presentation once, and this is always hard for people to hear. If you are the operator, everybody thinks us operators are dumb, right? That we don't know how to do it and we don't know how to advance our career. That's why we're the operator. And he's like, I'm here to say I am the operator and I have run my systems unattended, and you can do that. It's just a matter of using, like golf, using all the clubs in your golf bag, right? Use your staff, empower them, and you'll be successful.
I like that.
Yeah,
All
thanks.
right. So another another thing to think about, we always like to talk about the KISS principle, right? Keep it simple. And right up front, if it sounds too complicated, it probably is. And just in the last couple of weeks, I've spoken with a few of our clients and prospects about their systems, and they talk about some of the automation that's been put in place, and people have made it so complicated, almost like they're trying to protect their job. They've made it so complicated that nobody can come along after the fact and and unweave the complicated mess that was put in
Hmm.
place. So keep it simple. I mentioned automate the low-hanging fruit first, automate the mundane, automate the daily tasks, find a pilot project that's going to be successful early on to show management that the automation project will be successful. So the mantra of job security is not important. Your career is important.
Yeah.
So I like to say automate yourself out of a job.
Yeah, it's amazing, Chuck, the number of people we've seen over the years who their careers have been enhanced because they embraced automation,
Exactly.
right? The other thing is I talked earlier about being that task manager, right? Or task master. Yeah, you need to keep a list of things to automate because you're not going to be able to do everything all at once. Have those brainstorming sessions with your staff to build a list of things that are important. Then break it down by business unit, by manageable parts, however you want to organize it, by priorities, and then look at which sections, to Chuck's earlier point, we can be successful in. Let's automate those, phase it in, and that helps eliminate the impossible. It's like, you can't eat the whole elephant at once. You got to take little bites and make it better over time. Automation is generally a phased in approach. It's not the big bang approach because, you know, yeah, I don't know about this. I'm at home now, so no one ever got hurt by having a honeydew list. Well, hopefully, hopefully you don't swing back at your honey and hurt her. But that's the point here is that you got to have lists, you got to have to-do lists, you got to organize them, and don't that way you don't forget about things too. Sometimes
Right.
we're all done, right? Oh, wait a minute, we forgot about the other 13, 14 things that we can do down the road to even improve things faster.
Yeah,
Over to you,
and don't
Chuck.
forget, yeah, and don't forget to train your developers in automation. I think this is really huge,
Oh,
and it's something I really, really emphasized in my time in professional services at Help Systems. I know we've got at least one customer on the phone who had some great developers on staff, and we were able to teach them the tools.
mm,
And then every time they put something in place, they knew how to do that. They knew how to do it through the tools. I think that they're the most creative and knowledgeable staff who understand the business processes probably better than anybody else,
yeah,
right? And
and there's
sometimes you
so
do have to just maybe write a small script just to get the nth degree of automation in place.
exactly.
Yeah, you can't climb a mountain without the proper footholds, and
Yeah.
man, those developers have the tools in their tool belt to do that.
Yeah, let's not forget about them. I mean, don't make the assumption too, I mean, that they understand security, that they understand automation, that they know what dependency processing is and all those things. Um, you have to train them that these things are available because coming out of college, they might not even think about that. When you grow up with an environment, you manage it because, right? It's always been this way, right? So a lot of things we went through today. I don't think I'm going to go through and read every one of these. You will get handouts from today. Um, hopefully these will give you some very successful tips. And let's move our attention and talk now a little bit about some of the technologies and some of the traditional roadblocks we've seen over the years, like tape technology, printing technology. We'll talk about software and hardware, each one of these areas here. So traditional roadblocks and things that cause people problems is backups. I just was talking to a customer who was looking at HA, and they do their backups right now on their production system. They don't have a second system. And we talked to him about, okay, well, now you can give yourself back an hour a day by not doing your backups on your production system. Do your backups over on your HA system. And now we've automated your backups. Or you might be somebody who's struggling. I had another customer reach out to me and say, we don't have an automated tape tracking system, so it's really hard for us to catalog what's on what tapes because it's been a manual process. Think about that, right? Where's the tape catalog? It's in the data center. Where's the person who's doing the backups? He or she is at home, right? So now they don't, how do they know what's on what tape? They can't do that. And for audit reasons, they're supposed to have a log, right? There's just a simple thing there. We had a few people talk about printing, right? And we've had a few customers reach out to us and say, hey, we need something to automate and distribute our reports because that's something that was printing locally at the desk in the area of the different users. And now they're obviously not there at their desk, right? Help desk can cause some problems. The network itself sometimes can be a roadblock because it wasn't designed efficiently. And quite honestly, today's world, Help Systems has tools that can help you with your network too. We have a product called Intermapper. That checklist, right? We got that manual checklist. We have somebody in the data center. Let's extend it. Let's add more to it, right? Because we got to keep that operator busy. Ooh, bad idea. You're just building yourself a hole and burying yourself. You don't want more on the checklist just to keep the operator busy. You want to automate more by going out to the business units and saying, hey, what do you have that you've been doing manually that our IT department could automate with you with robotic process automation or enterprise scheduling. Something was missed one time. We talked about that earlier, and I have seen customers who have gone from an automated schedule to somebody checking things off because of that. That just means you haven't built enough automation rules in place to automate the automation or to build in notification into the process. And then poorly written applications. Quit firefighting poorly written applications. Fix those things. So software that's available to you, enterprise scheduling, that's pretty straightforward. I think most everybody has heard about this technology. It's basically building a central schedule around the tool. And we can do that from an IBM I perspective. Technically, we can do it from a Linux perspective, a Unix perspective, a Windows perspective, and we can encompass IBM I, Unix, Linux, and Windows. Many different ways to do that with HelpSystems. Automated monitoring, whether it's QSysOper or event logs from Windows, Unix, or Linux, we can also automate those things for you. And along with that, the critical resources. When we talk IBM I, we talk job queues and subsystems and ports and HTTP servers that are running. Are they up and running? We talk other servers. We might be looking at services and daemons and other things, event logs over there. Of course, automated backups. In today's world, you should definitely be able to do that. And you should be able to also automate security if you have the right tools there, and report documentation will certainly help out. So hardware, turn our attention to hardware. Do you have the right hardware that allows you to run a highly virtual environment as unattended as possible? Those who have BIOS and all those kinds of great things in place already can do it. Virtual tape libraries have been around on the IBM I platform. I wrote a blog on our website. If you're looking for who to investigate, there are probably 5 or 6 good options for you with VTL, all at different price points. And I can certainly always give you an opinion on what I think. Eliminate printers, goes without saying. If you got printers in the office today and people are supposed to be going to their printer to get their printout, kind of hard to do, right? Virtualization technology, there's a lot of, there's the BIOS today, IBM I, there's Power VM, which we use at HelpSystems. The cloud hosters, the MSPs of the world can host you today. If you want to totally get out of the business of managing your hardware, there are a lot of options where people will host your IBM I, your AIX, your Unix, your Windows servers in their cloud. And you still have responsibilities though for what, Chuck? The automation, right?
That's right.
They're not going to automate your systems for you. They'll run them as is. So what a great topic to bring to you today. I hate in a way to be so upbeat in these really trying times, but I get excited about automation because I've seen the positives on the faces of customers who have embraced automation over the years. And it really is that journey. It's a process of going through to get you to that lights out which is really certainly achievable. IBM I, it was originally sold as an AS400, of course, as this operatorless environment. And I remember that, and I can say I remember that because I was there talking about how it would be able to run itself. And it just needs a few tools added to the already robust work management, commands, security, object-oriented, database-driven system that it is. And you can be very successful with that. All right, so now we're off to the question time, and we're off to our last polling question before we must release you all to battle out there in the IT world. So Chuck, on our last polling question, how can HelpSystems help you? I would like more information on automation. I would like a free guided automation assessment. What is that, Chuck? What do you do with that?
Yeah, so the guided automation assessment is a list of 35 questions that we will go through with you on 5 critical areas of IT operations automation for IBM I. And you will be graded on all those, and we'll give you some collateral back that will explain exactly where you sit in comparison with other folks that have IBM I in their data center. And then we'll have some recommendations.
We also do those health checks. What we do there, and we're especially this time and age, reach out to us if you have our software and you don't feel like you're using it. I've been on board with a customer this week and kind of looking at their robot schedule jobs and helping them out with that, and talking about automation to other platforms. And and diagramming and job flow charts, things they didn't realize were in robot schedule already. We'll go through and look at your release levels, look at how you're using the software, are you purging the software, et cetera. And then the final thing is a schedule tech update. What's a tech update? At HelpSystems, what we'll do is we'll take you through where we're at, we'll listen to what's on your roadmap, and we'll kind of marry those together and explain what we have to offer you today from an automation, security standpoint, document management, all the different things that we do. I've even had some very interesting conversations here this week with customers around just query. Another topic coming up is, hey, we need to get at our data, right? So at HelpSystems, we can help you with backup and recovery, HA, document management, cybersecurity, monitoring the system, business intelligence. We have the SQL and Showcase products. Maybe you're having a performance issue. Maybe your system has actually grown as a result of COVID-19 and you need a better capacity plan. We can do that for you. And of course, automation, scheduling, monitoring, all those things we've been doing for many, many years for many of you. So I want to thank you for answering the last poll question, and we'll save that result. And I just went through this slide here, but that's a good one to hang out on while we wrap up this webinar today. Chuck, let's see, we had some questions. I think somebody was picking on you in the question chat bar. We won't repeat that one, but some great words of wisdom from some of our other customers. Anything that you'd like to add out there, Chuck, for the community?
Well, back when I was in the real world, I wish I would have spent more time focused on automation rather than building my run book and my checklists. So
Right.
You take the techniques that you've discovered here and learned about here and take that first step.
Right. The last final tip before we wrap up today and say thank you for joining us is really get out there and work with your business users, find out what they're doing manually that you can help them out with. I mean, even, working remote, you could certainly start a little interest group and talk to the accounts payable department. How can we help you do your job better now that you're working remotely? There are going to be the new norm as we come out of COVID-19, and there are things that are going to change forever as a result of this. And I hope they are for the better, right? We'll all come out of this together. We will all be successful, but along the way, there's going to be some changes and there's going to be some things that are never going to be the same again. I want to thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy your families. I know we're all getting to spend a lot more time with them, and that's a good thing. Thank you,
Yeah,
Chuck.
thanks everybody. Thanks, Tom. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.